there, how are you doing? Welcome to Poodling Around for what will be another, hopefully, interesting interlude. Now, many of you have probably been poodling around exploring interesting places of late, but I doubt that you've been running flat out up a 966-foot, 294-metre fell. Unless you're a fell runner, of course. Now, if fell and fell running mean nothing to you and aren't in your vocabulary, let me explain. In northern England, and specifically in the county of Cumbria, rather big hills tend to be known as fells. Cumbria may be better known to you as the Lake District, home to famous people such as poet William Wordsworth and children's author Beatrix Potter in past centuries. It's a truly stunning location, full of lakes and smaller lakes called meres, and with a very dramatic landscape, which includes rather big rocky fells covered in bracken and other vegetation. Grasmere is where Wordsworth lived for many years and where he penned the poem Daffodils, wandering lonely as a cloud. Now, this is the village in which the rather big fell, whose dimensions I described to you earlier on, attracts young athlete Charlotte Rawstron, who lives in the northern county of Yorkshire and who competes in the fell running races at Grasmere Lakeland Sports and Show every August. This event is brimming with tradition and local Cumbrian culture, and it's existed since the 1860s. The fell races were once entered by local farmers, all trying to outdo each other. And the same is true of the Cumberland and Westmoreland wrestling bouts, where men, women and children still today take part in a unique form of wrestling, using a backhold technique and wearing a costume of vest and leggings. And, if in truly traditional costume, creating quite a spectacle. Charlotte, although still aged just 18, competes against this backdrop, and that of barking hounds eagerly following aniseed and petrol trails across the fells in their own races. With funfair music, the waft of hot dogs on the breeze, and the noise of thousands of people all enjoying a great family day out at Grasmere Lakeland Sports and Show, filling her ears, she has already achieved great success when fell running at Grasmere. I caught up with her to find out more. Hi Charlotte, first of all, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? How old are you and where do you live?
So I'm Charlotte Rawstron. I'm 18 and I live in Otley, which is like near Leeds.
Yeah, in Yorkshire.
In Yorkshire, yeah.
And at what age did you start fell running?
I think I started fell running probably when I was like maybe 11, 12, like properly. And I think I did, one of the first ones I did was the Ilkley Moor fell race and then a couple of like the Bothras. Because I just remember like looking back on pictures and I kind of think that's when I started.
So I suppose that was a little bit later than some people, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I know some of my friends have been doing it since they were a lot kind of younger. I think I always started off doing like primary school cross countries and then kind of just moved over to like the fells and got into track as well a bit more.
And do you come from a family of fell runners or are you the first?
No, I don't really. Both my parents have done like a couple of races, but it's normally ones that like we've all been going to and they're like, oh, may as well do it while we're here. But no, there's not really been like a history in the family of us doing it.
So new ground for you, really. So which club do you belong to, and has this always been your club?
So I run now for Skyrack, which is based in Guiseley near to me. But when I first started training and racing, I ran for Otley, like AC, so that was the club in like obviously the town where I live, and made a switch maybe like 5 years ago because I was second claim for a while, and now I just run for Skyrack now because I wanted to join a few of the other girls that were my age at the time. And so I could be part of like teams for relay events as well. So I thought it's like having that community as well is great.
And is that club quite close to where you live then?
Yeah, it's like when I train with them, it's like 5-10 minutes down the road. So it's still really local to me because that's what I wanted.
Not too bad, really. And how many hours a week do you commit to training and what does training consist of?
I think it's obviously different depending on the week. So if we've got a race coming up, then you probably do slightly less, but maybe 8 to 10 hours depending on like the season, what competitions I've got coming up. It's obviously split during the week. So I normally have maybe a rest day and then do 3 sessions and then kind of fill the other days with like steady runs and long runs or cross training that incorporate into the other days.
It's pretty constant then throughout the week, isn't it?
Yeah. It's always a big part of the week as well. But it's always something I look forward to as well.
Oh, that's good. At least you enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you take part in any other kind of athletics, running events, as well as fell running?
Yeah, so fell running is just kind of one of those other events I do. So I do the track and obviously the cross country as well through the winter. And then this weekend, I'm actually packing now because I'm going to the English schools track and field champs this weekend.
Okay, where do they take place?
So it's at the Alexander Stadium in Birmingham. So it's always a great venue to go to. It's the same place as last year. It's where they had the Commonwealth Games last year. So it's always great because I went to watch that and then actually racing on the track.
And like you say, it's a good atmosphere, I guess. Everybody that you know is there. Yeah, it sounds like it's a great event. And how did you get on last year?
I think it was the first year I'd done the steeplechase as an event. So I think I was about seventh or eighth, but it was just a great to get the experience. It was the first time being to English schools on the track. But I just remember like obviously the atmosphere and everything, like all the teams just cheering everyone on. So it's always great.
Yeah, and like you say, the Commonwealth Games there was such a great success, wasn't it? You know, and everybody sort of fell in love with Birmingham, I think, at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, how great to go there. Um, and which do you prefer? Do you prefer the fell running and the outdoor cross country, or do you prefer the track?
I'm a bit indecisive, so it's very dependent on what races I've got coming up, and I don't like have a clear favourite. I think they're all like they can be quite different and like almost so similar at the same time. I think fell races have always got that there is kind of part of a gala or a bigger event, so there's always that strong community feel. But I think some of my best friends come from all the disciplines as well. So like I've made such great friends and I've seen them at different events as well. So
And how many fell running events do you take part in each year?
I think I think now more than when I was younger. I think I pick and choose a bit more. So I'll probably say I race maybe 5 to 8 times a year on the fells, just depends what races I'm doing. And obviously if I'm doing a bit more track one year, then I might do slightly less, but I never want to not do any. I think as I've got older, we obviously pick a bit more carefully what races I want to do. But I remember when I was younger, I did 2 fell races in the same day. I think I did Gargrave in the morning and then we drove across and I did Burnsall in the afternoon. Just fill the day up even more.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of energy, that's for sure.
They were a lot shorter as well, so you could, you had the flexibility. You're like, oh, may as well race Grasmere, race Gargrave, and then just cut across and go do the other one as well.
Oh, wow. And how difficult is all of this to combine with schoolwork? Because I know that you've been taking exams recently, haven't you?
Yeah, so I think I found it okay to balance with my A levels at the same time because there's always a pressure to do as well as you can, obviously, in your exams, and from school there's a lot of that. But I'd done so much revision and preparation across because it's split across 2 years, so I'd started that so early and like done it so in advance, so it allowed me to train as normal, and it wasn't like I've got to get out and train, like I've got to stop my revision. It was always like I use it as a good break. A break from the revision and I could just step away. I didn't need to stress myself out about trying to get back as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And it's like that mental reset as well. So some mornings I actually ran before my exams because I just felt like it cleared my head.
Yeah. Just dump all that stress.
Yeah, dump all it out, get it out, just run in the morning, chill out a bit. So it's always good.
And what A levels did you take?
I took biology, chemistry, PE, geography. So I took 4. I obviously challenge myself even more, give myself more to do. But
Yeah. And what do you want to do with those exams? Have you got a goal in mind for your career?
I'm going to take a gap year now. So take some time kind of away from studying, take a bit of a break from that because obviously it's so full on going from your GCSEs and then your A levels and then go straight to uni. And then I think from there I just need to kind of like shore up where I want to go to uni, like where, and then exactly what course as well. Said I was already indecisive anyway, so choice now.
And which school have you been attending up to now?
I was at St Mary's Mensons. That's probably 10 minutes down the road from us. But I've just finished my last year there. Now, obviously, I have to do my A levels. So,
Yeah. So you've got a nice long summer to relax now.
Okay. I'm like, what do I do with all my time? Like, I've got time to do things now. So,
Mm. And on that note, what other things do you get a chance to do in your spare time? Because it sounds like a lot of it is taken up with running.
as I say, a lot of my like spare time, his passion has probably been revising, but I work quite a bit. And then other than that, I love spending time with both like my friends and family. So depending what obviously what's going on, you have to make those like small sacrifices with racing training. But I've got those friends around me to support me as well. So
Hmm. And what is your goal in the world of athletics?
I think my goal obviously to do as best I can, and it's obviously hard to tell where that gets you, but
Mm.
I'd love to race internationally again and be part of the team because that was such a great experience the times I've done that.
Yeah. I suppose it adds that extra dimension, doesn't it, when you've got other people around you? Because it's kind of the loneliness of the long distance runner, I guess, when you're on the fell, isn't it? It's just you up there,
Mm.
nobody else to kind of support you at all. So having that camaraderie, I can imagine, is quite interesting. And do you have a particular athletics hero? And if so, who is that?
I think I've been lucky when I've been training to have been surrounded by so many role models. Like when I've been out and like if I've gone up to the track at Leeds Beckett, I think one of those in particular is Laura Waitman because I remember seeing her at the track a few times when I was training when I was younger, and it was just so inspiring. It's like just
Mm.
sharing a track with Olympians, and I still do that now, and it still baffles me that they know who I am as well, which sounds crazy, but like
Yeah.
you just share the track with them all the time. And I think another one is I saw Tommy Sedgwick at Arndt of Gala when I think I was an under 14, and he had so many words of advice then. And then I still see him now when I'm racing at some of the events, and he still stops and chats. So
Well, he's the bellman at Grasmere, as you'll know. And I did an interview with him last year for a podcast. So that was really interesting listening to his days of the 1970s, 1980s and what went on then. So, yeah, I think it was a very different kind of setup then. They used to be able to walk the course and remove obstacles. And I think that might be nice to do now if you
yeah,
think, yeah. So what do you think has been your biggest achievement to date?
I think probably one of them would be obviously winning the bronze at the European Championships in La Palma because I think it was the first time I got to run for Great Britain after the World Champs got postponed in Thailand. So I was meant to go to Thailand. That got cancelled. And then I think as well for La Palma, I broke my wrist 2 days before the race.
Oh, dear.
I was on a steady run. I'm like, it could have been something more dramatic. Like I would have done something a bit, like show everyone off. But no, I just tripped over a stone. But I think I was just proud enough to make the start line at that race because even the day before the race, you weren't sure I was going to be able to make make the start line. So to come away with that result was incredible. And then I remember when I crossed the line, just like the emotions as well. And I remember seeing the doctor who'd helped me out for the past 3 days. And it was just, yeah, it's one of those, it's just like, it's so hard to sum up even now. And it's like 2 years later.
Yeah, and what event was that you were competing in?
It was the uphill only at the Europeans.
Right. So yeah, so going uphill seems to be something that you spend a lot of time doing, doesn't it? So moving on to Grasmere Sports, I presume that you'll be competing in the senior guides race again this year. Is that right? And that's quite interesting, is it? Because it's the really big one before the end of the day. So is that an exciting race to take part in?
I think so. It's always one that we always put on the calendar at the start of the year. So we always get a calendar out and kind of pick and choose what races we want to do for the year or like targets and stuff. I think it's always one that we always go, oh yeah, we'll put that on because it's always such a great day out and it's such a great race.
Well, I can remember seeing you, Charlotte, and it must have been 2 years ago. Yeah, because I was appointed to do the PR in 2019, but because of COVID, there was no event, was there? So yes, it was 2 years ago, and I can remember watching you run up and down that fell and thinking, goodness me, this girl can run. And that year, I think you had a bright pink vest, so you were easy to pick out on the fell. And I was just so impressed at, you just came down in such a dramatic fashion. I was just, wow, that is amazing. So how difficult is it to kind of make that ascent? And then, the descent must be so speedy. Is that something that is difficult to do when you first do it? And how do you put the brakes on coming down?
I think I've raced Grasmere quite a few times, which has given me a bit of practice. Obviously, with some of the bits of the course that, like, maybe what's maybe the best route to take. And it's probably definitely one of the steepest on the calendars and one of the steepest I've done. And
Mm.
there's no kind of let off in the ascent or the descent. Like, it's that steep the whole way up. I think the descent, it's almost impossible to put the brakes on because it's so steep. So I just kind of let myself go on the descent and just, yeah, hope I don't fall over.
Yeah,
I'm quite
I
good at
think
that.
that's what Tommy said. He said, just used to go for it. I think he broke a lot of bones there when he was doing it. Uh, and given that it's the last race of the day, there's a lot of time, isn't there, that you're hanging around. How do you fill that time?
I think when the race is like later on in the day, it's so much harder to calm the nerves. So when I think because you're kind of always thinking about it then because you see everyone going, getting warmed up, or you see the other races coming in. I think it's that almost the anticipation of the race to come, and I always just want to get started. So I
Mm.
love running, like let's say I love running in the morning, love getting it out of the way. So it's harder when it's later on in the day. But I think I'm quite a calm person anyway. So I always try and stay relaxed as possible. And then it was quite good last year at Grasmere. My family came to watch, so my grandparents are there, my mum and dad, my sister, and then my uncle and auntie, my cousins. So I spent the morning taking my little cousins around all the stalls, and we went up and down on the rides like the little train. And then, I mean, the teacups must be some good race prep because it clearly worked. Going round and round.
The trouble is, the older you've got, the later in the day you race.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it is difficult, but it is the crescendo, isn't it? That last race
Mhm.
is the one that everybody's got their eyes on. And they've even kind of like moved away from the wrestling at that point.
Yeah, you
Focus
see
on the
everyone kind
football.
of moving across the field, like they might go like around some of the stalls after a bit, and then you see everyone kind of moving over when everyone starts warming up in the main field, doing like your last strides and stuff, and you kind of, yeah, you get that sense of it is probably the big race of the day.
Mm, definitely. Grasmere itself is regarded as one of the fell racing trophies to win, but you've already got a few Grasmere trophies in the bag, haven't you? Which have you won so far?
I've won Grasmere now as a under 12, under 14, under 17, and now as a senior after last year. I've got a picture at home and a picture I put on my Instagram last year, and it's just got the podium picture from all four because I think I remember going home that night and my dad was like, "You've won it every time you've done it." Like, I've done a few races, I've not won Grasmere, but I've won like each age group now,
Mm.
which I think is such an achievement, but just shows how, yeah, how much I love that course as well.
Yeah, and how much work you've put into it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And does the weather affect you at all? Do you run better in certain conditions than others?
I'd say I probably prefer running in conditions that aren't too hot because I always seem to struggle a bit more in the heat. So, remember one year I did Ambleside and it was so hot. Just remember running through the bracken and I was like, oh, it was
Mm.
not, it was not that fun. But I quite like running in the rain, which seems to bother quite a few people more than like me. Like, I don't mind it. And then I'd say if I had to pick the least favourite of any day of the week, it'd be the wind.
Yeah, I can imagine it's not that much fun to battle against the wind as well as the ascent and the descent, but I really shouldn't worry too much about the heat, Charlotte. The way it is, I don't think we're going to get a heat wave.
Yeah, that's that's fine by me.
I think
Maybe no wind would be great.
I think you might get rain, but yeah, let's hope
Yeah.
not. Let's hope it's a really nice day, but not too hot. Yeah.
I know I've just been away, so I've come back now and I don't think I'm acclimatized yet. Everyone was like vests and or tops off at the track the other day. I had 3 layers on still. I still had my long sleeve on, my t-shirt and my waterproof. I was not ready for it.
It's so cold, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then going back to the course, do you ever worry about taking the wrong route? Because I have seen some people that in the last few years. Last year in particular, I think there was a bit of a drama with that happening.
Yeah. I think when I won it as an under 17, I actually got lost at the top. So you turn on a big rock, and then there was almost like a confusion with the marshal, and dropped off the wrong side of the rock. So then I
Mm.
had to come back up, and then I dropped down, and then went over the wrong wall. So they made me come back over the wall, and I'm
Oh,
back on the court. So quite good
but you
at like
still
getting
won the
lost.
race.
Yeah, my dad. I remember showing him some of the questions. He was like, "Oh, that question's made for you. You get lost all the time." I was like, "It told me that." I think it's actually a skill to get lost as well as I do. Like Google Maps or OS Maps is a lifesaver for me if I'm out on my own. Like if I run the route 100 times, so I have to maybe check the map a couple of times. If I'm on a steady run round home, but I always try and walk the course with a lot of time before the race just to kind of familiarise myself, make sure I know where I'm going. But it's so hard to get right up to the top of some of the races to see them because you've got limited time. You don't want to obviously tire yourself out before the
Mm.
event. So you want to see as much as you can, but obviously without putting too much pressure on yourself. Or
Yeah. Yeah, because I see a lot of people kind of like going to about probably midway and
yeah,
then coming back down again. So it's that last bit that can cause the
I don't. Yeah, I normally probably so I head up to over the little wall and then a Grasmere and then to the under 12s 10. I just do that little route just to kind of get a bit of confidence, see like the last bit of the descent down. But I'm one of those I've done a few races and I'd rather not see the course and just like see what happens when I get there. So that was like the top of the course at Grasmere last year. I knew where I was going to kind of towards the under 17s turn, but that was it.
Mm. Yeah, it's because you've never been beyond that point before,
Um,
did you? No. So that must have been quite difficult. But at least you've got that knowledge now. You've got that in your head.
yeah, there's people around, so I knew I was going the right way at least. So that's
Yeah.
good.
And you've mentioned the wall there, which is quite an obstacle in itself. How difficult is it to, deal with that and the bracken and the rocks and other things?
I practiced, say, a couple of the obstacles at Grasmere last year on like my course recce, just to like you give yourself a little bit of like confidence boost as well. But when you're in the race, like all the practice you do, the adrenaline just takes over anyway. So I remember I reached the fence the same time as Nicola Jackson last year. And that was because I was catching her on the descent and I just threw myself over as quick as I could because there's no point stopping and kind of thinking, oh, what do I do in the course recce? Because you haven't really got the time to do it. So I just threw myself over as quick as I could.
Yeah.
But I think I'm like the clumsiest person in the world, but then I still choose to race on the fells and then like I do steeplechase on the track just to add some more obstacles in the way. So
Yeah, I thought I was the clumsiest person. Glad to know somebody else.
yeah, if there's a twig on a path anywhere, I can find a twig on the path and trip over it. That's how that's how it comes
That's how you
down.
got your broken wrist.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you aware of the crowds below you when you're sort of coming back on the way down, or are you just looking at the terrain or just fixed on the finishing line? And is that all a bit of a blur?
I think you can when you set off. Obviously, you're not turning around looking, but you can almost hear the crowd, and they've not a lot of the time they've always got music on when you set off at Grasmere. And
Mm.
I could normally hear it most of the way up that first, maybe one or two fields, and then once you hit the wall, it's not silent because obviously there's a few people out watching, but all of that kind of noise kind of goes and you forget about the crowd. I think I noticed the crowd last year at Grasmere in that last field on the hill. Like my sister was there watching, and I looked up as I went through. It's like a little gap where you enter the last field on the descent. I just knew at that point how many people were watching on the final field. And
Mm.
I didn't look behind at that point because I had no idea where Nicola and Emily were. So I just like gave it as much as I could to the line from that point, and I could see the crowd. I knew I had people in the crowd cheering us on as well. So you just go for it at that point.
And as you said, it's such a great community spirit, isn't it? When it
Mm.
gets to that sort of final race, everybody's there and they've all had a really good day. So it must be quite uplifting when you kind of get the cheers because they don't know you, they're kind of cheering you home.
Mhm.
So that must be a great feeling to sort of cross the
Yeah.
line and know that you've done that with all those people behind you.
Yeah, you always hear not whispers, you always people go, "Oh, it's the first woman," or "All the women coming now," or you hear bits of it, but a lot of the time it's just like a blur of noise. So but it's
Mhm.
always a great experience that kind of coming into the finish line. It's just great.
Yeah, because there's a lot of focus around that finish line as well, the way it's laid out, all the way the mountains kind of surround it. It's like a natural arena, isn't it? So yeah, it is wonderful when that happens. Now, the women's seniors record at Grasmere hasn't been broken since 2017 when it was set by Victoria Wilkinson, and it's 15 minutes and 5 seconds. And there's a bonus of £500 for anybody who breaks it. So is it something that you've got in your sights? And what's it going to take for someone to break that record? I think you did 16 minutes, 3 seconds last year, didn't you? So there's a little bit of a gap there that can be made up.
I think, well, Victoria's record's incredible in itself. Like, to get that time on that course is insane. But I think for me to be anywhere close, it'd have to be such a like kind of near perfect performance. You've always got to have the right people around you to race and the correct weather conditions, because you never know. It's hard to kind of replicate such a good performance or try and race that. But it's always when you kind of got in your sights, even not for this year, but in the future as well. So
Yeah.
as good as you can.
I've also discovered that this year it's actually 40 years since women were allowed to race in that race. I hadn't even realised that, but yeah, they were only allowed to race in it in 1984. So yeah, it's amazing that before that it was men only. So yeah, I think the women put up such a good show against the men these days that it's fantastic. I mean, I don't know how many men were ahead of you last year, but not many, were there?
No, I can't remember. I remember a couple of years ago. I think I was under 14. I remember a sprint finishing for like first in the race, and I think that still happens now. There's not that much of a gap between the front of us and like the front of the men's race now, and to hear that they've only been able to do it for like, the past 40 years is
Yeah, amazing. So who's going to be your biggest competition this year?
I don't know, like I think it's one of those races where you have no idea who's going to be in the race until you kind of step on the start line. You don't, because it's entry on the day as well. So I remember last year I didn't really know who was doing it until I started warming up. I saw one of my best friends, Emily, was warming up, and she's always so good to race against. We've kind of battled it out with each other for like the past 5, 6 years. So it's always good to race people like that. A lot of the people I race are some of my best friends anyway. So
Yeah. Because like you say, anybody can enter on the day, can't they? So 15 minutes before
yeah,
someone
it's
not their entry in,
yeah.
some unknown from somewhere that you've never heard of might
I
turn up.
think I think I decided last year I was going to do it the day before.
Hmm.
I can't remember. Don't know if I'd been ill or I'd had a bit of an injury or something. So we're just playing it by ear, and then we're like, well, we may as well do it. It's always such a great event. So it's one of those, same person can do that as well. So
Well, good job you did because you went
I
home with
know,
a trophy.
I know. That's what I said when I got home. I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I did that.
Your family had a great day out as
Yeah,
well. So, yeah.
yeah.
Now, a lot of women drop out of sport as they progress through their teens or
Mhm.
head to university. Can you see that happening to you? If not, what's going to spur you on?
I think well, see, I'm taking a year out now before I go to university, before I go back into studying further. So it just gives myself that break from studying and more time to focus on the training, etc. I think I've obviously got the right people around me for support and to motivate me as well. So I've got good coaches, and then got such good friends as well away from the sport and in the sport, that they just give you that little bit of confidence, that little bit of extra support that you need as well. And then I know from coaching myself, like I'm a netball coach as well, that just trying to, even giving the girls that confidence to carry on and get them into the sport as well, just helps me as well in a way, like giving back as well.
And I think probably as women's sport is becoming higher profile, maybe the problem is reducing a little bit because, we've got the Lionesses, for example, and other female sports teams sort of leading the way. So maybe women are becoming more interested in carrying on. Maybe that drop off rate will kind of like reduce as we go forward.
So there's so many role models now as well, isn't there? So there's just
Yeah,
people to look up to now that there probably wasn't when other people started.
yeah,
And
exactly.
relate to.
There's so much progress with women's sport, hasn't there? And we've obviously got the Olympics coming up soon. So what's your must-see event at the Olympic Games?
I think one of the must-see events must be the women's 800 metres with all that talent from internationally and the British girls as well. I think even the heats of that race are going to be so exciting. Just everyone's got to get through those heats as well, so it's not going to be an easy feat to make the final, and then that final is going to be so exciting to watch, I think. So
Yeah. And hopefully some British interest in that as well.
yeah, definitely is some great girls that are lining up on that start line, so it'd be great to watch.
Mm. Now, finally, what would you say to anyone who's never been to a fell race or seen an event like Grasmere Sports? Is it worth going along to watch?
100%. I think it's one of those events that has everything on to offer to them. And it's such a good day out as well. So I've said even like everyone has such a good day out, whether you're racing or not. People maybe finish their walk and just stumble across it. And then we normally go up to the lakes for a week, and it's normally around that time anyway. So I remember the first year, we just stumbled across a bit and like, oh, well, it's on the calendar, we'll do the race as well. And I think other than when it's not been on for kind of COVID, I think we've not been since. I think we've been every year.
Yeah, it sort of gets into the blood, I think, Grasmere Sports, doesn't it? It's something you look forward to. It's the August bank holiday weekend, and you kind of think, well, what a great place to go just to relax, get that fresh air. Even if the weather's not that great, it's still a really lovely day out, isn't it? And it's like a little bit of stepping back into the past, I always think, because that community spirit is like something that's so rare to find nowadays.
I think so many of those like events have stopped with COVID or stopped with like you've always got to have someone to carry the like tradition through. I think it's one of those there's such a great community there. Everyone's having a good time. Like you can stop and speak to anyone about it, and everyone's having a great time as well. So it's always a good event.
And do you ever go and watch the wrestling or anything like that?
Yeah, so obviously last year I was going around with my cousins, so we'd stop and sit on the benches for a bit, watch a bit of that, and then always keep an eye out for when some of the fell races are starting or some of the track races as well. See people are doing them, and then yeah, you just go out and see everything. I remember I've done the long jump one year.
Oh, right.
I did the long jump. We were like, why not?
Yeah, I don't think I'll be trying that, but I can remember doing that at school and kind of falling flat on my face in the sands. My one attempt at the long jump, I don't think I took off properly or something. But yeah, no, I love the wrestling last year because the Icelandic and the Breton wrestlers were back. So it added that extra kind of element, I thought, to the whole thing, a bit of international flavour. So it was nice to see. Yeah.
You can just hear the excitement around it as well, can't you?
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? And you race in your main race against one of the local MPs, don't you? Tim Farron always takes to that course. So you're racing against somebody in the Houses of Parliament, so that must be interesting. I guess as you're coming back down, you're seeing people going up as well, aren't you? So, because a lot of people take quite some time to finish it, but good on them for actually doing that.
So it's like they're there. Like some people wouldn't even think of going to the start line. So it doesn't matter where you finish, and it's always a great event to just get involved in as well and be part of.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That's been lovely to talk to you, and hopefully I'll see you at Grasmere this year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, you're not too clumsy.
Touch wood.
And yeah, you won't break anything or do it yourself before that. So good luck with that. Let's hope you can get close to that record. It'd be great to see it broken, and lovely to have £500 in the bank if you could do that. So,
it's always a good.
Charlotte.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to speak to you.
And you.
Bye.
Bye.
How inspiring was that? Listening to someone dedicated to their craft, in this case, athletics. If you can get to Grasmere Sports on Sunday, August the 25th, you could track Charlotte's progress in the race this year. You could also see if she manages to find the right route or break the ladies' record. At the same time, you could experience the fantastic day out that she described and soak up all the traditional Cumbrian culture that you'd be hard pushed to find anywhere else in the course of a day. Perhaps it could be your first experience of fell racing, Cumberland and Westmoreland wrestling, and also hound trailing. I'd love to close this podcast with an appropriate Michael Bolton rendition of Since I Fell for You, or Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, but copyright just won't allow. So perhaps I will see you at Grasmere Sports this year. But if not, whether you're mooching around Malibu or delighting in Dijon, do take really good care of yourself. And remember, as I always tell you, that life is much more fun when you're poodling around.